I think once the linen sari was woven and I got it to, started showing it to my friends, to my clients, it really became, I think everybody was waiting for something like that. First time women had seen something, which would drape like a breeze and look a certain way, there's something very, very new, raw. And from there, it's been, this journey has been beautiful, a gradual succession then I started thinking about from here, how do I start working with artisans and crafts and, keep creating that narrative through years.
Hello, with me today is the very lovely Anavila. Anavila, welcome.
Thank you.
So, tell us about your brand. It began in 2011 and it's been a long journey, I think 12 years. That's pretty much long. How has the journey been and how have you been able to make a difference?
So it's been a wonderful journey so far, these 12 years. It started with a simple idea. I graduated from NEST long time back and then I took a sabbatical for a little while working for brands, mostly menswear. And when I came back to work, in between I did a small stint with Ministry of Development and Ministry of Textiles where I actually learned about crafts. So we were working with 21 crafts and, around 10,000 artisans all over India. And that journey for 3 years in those clusters, I think that was the time, I think, when my brand in my mind started, kind of that idea of creating something started brewing in my mind. So after those 3 years, I took a 5-year sabbatical. My son was born. And when I came back, I said, if I want to come back in terms of fashion and textiles, I really want to do something worthwhile with my time. And that's when the idea of reinterpreting the sari was something which I was thinking about. I worked with various fibers, yarns, and eventually I took fancy to linen, and I started thinking about how to create a sari which is, sari is a piece of heritage. It is, deeply embedded in our culture. So how to take something which is so revered and, through ancient times and, kind of turn it around and make it very, very contemporary. And I thought the best idea was take a foreign yarn, start working on our looms and see how it works. And that's how, the linen sari was made. And I think once the linen sari was woven and I got it to, started showing it to my friends, to my clients, it really became, I think everybody was waiting for something like that. And, it took feet of its own and, it kept me busy because, it was the first time women had seen something, which would drape, like a breeze and look a certain way, there's something very, very new, raw. And from there, it's been, this journey has been beautiful, a gradual succession then I started thinking about from here, how do I start working with artisans and crafts and, keep creating that narrative through years.
Yes. So when the whole idea of the linen sari came to you and you decided to go to the weavers and artisans to talk about it, let me try my hand on linen saris and the print on it. So how skeptical were they? Because that's it's a very new thing for them as well, I guess.
So, the first, I didn't have an idea of, because I'd worked in Banaras through my project. I had gone to Maheshwar, I had gone to West Bengal, and, certain parts of south of India, and Gujarat as well. But, I didn't know how I weave this yarn and who would be open to do it. So I started with Banaras, but, the viewers there said that we will not be able to work with this yarn. And then went to Maheshwar, and then I got the same feedback from there. And, very interestingly, a weaver himself from Banaras, Varanasi, he told me that, in West Bengal they make these stoles with linen. So maybe somebody will be able to help you there. And from there, I, went to West Bengal and I got this weaver. I spoke to him about weaving linen, and he was doing small little stoles for some exporter of linen. So I told him I want to make a sari. He had 2 looms. Okay, so I said I want to make a sari, and his loom, the width of linen which he was doing was only this much because he was making stoles. Said lambe mein, because linen when dry is a very, very brittle kind of a yarn. So it breaks very fast in the loom when you work. So loom takes a lot of pressure when you're weaving. So he said, "Isse bade loom pe on this width we'll not be able to weave a sari." I said, "Let's try. I'm going to invest in this work, and whatever is, if we fail, we fail." And he took some time. He was open. He said, "Okay." I said, "I'll take that time from you for that 1 month, which you are going to invest in this trial and error and weaving the sari." And he actually wove the sari, and when the sari came to me, I said, "This is what I wanted."
Yeah.
We had to do a few, iterations to the loom, because if you weave linen tight, then it will not fall, because it is a yarn which is also thick, coarse yarn. It has texture. So we had to work with the way the loom was set, ends and picks, how loosely we want it to be woven, so that when it comes, so when you wear a linen shirt, it crumples,
Yes.
and it's of a certain weight. You cannot have the same weight for the sari because it's 5.5 meters. So we had to kind of loosen up the weave so that it flows and drapes in a certain way, and it looks nice as a sari. So all of that took some time, but the sari came out. Then we did a certain kind of a softener wash so that the fall was a certain type. And, it was woven, and then, the first plain sari, it was only in natural linen color with a little bit of selvage in silver, a bit of color running on one of the ends. From there we started, and, as I put it in the market, and as the demand grew, then we started experimenting with borders, a bit of motif, some jacquard in the borders, and over the years, as you said, we've started printing and, trying different, collaborating with different artisans to work on linen.
So if you're talking about collaboration, let's talk about Dabu. That's your latest collection, which was showcased at Lakme. And today we did a wonderful workshop. It was so enriching and actually very therapeutic to actually sit and do all that on your own. It was a learning experience for us. So tell us about Dabu. Like, why did you think of this print form? For that.
So, I've always, for a very long time, I've loved the resist print. The beauty when you resist the fabric and dye it, and, it somehow creeps in with some, cracks which come. It's a beautiful process. So batik I've worked with, in 5-6 years ago, I worked a lot with batik, and I wanted to try something new. And, I've come across Dabu, and you read about Dabu and you see Dabu fabrics, but, I never thought of working with Dabu. And then, we went to Maheshji's workplace, and it's quite close by. And through that, looking at his work, in fact, it was, the first time I went into the Dabu workshop, and I saw that workshop because it was full of the sawdust which we were using. So it was full of sawdust. It was hazy, and there was this fabric which was, printed with mud, and it was something so intriguing, and I wanted to experiment. So I asked him, I said, "Will you be open?" Because he works with very typical traditional blocks and prints, and there is a certain color story to them. So I asked him, will he be open to work with different language, prints which maybe look floral and a bigger block, different kind of, Dabu with printing and, layouts which are very, very different. So if you've seen our collection, we don't have repeat prints. We have a lot of, engineered prints over that, and that takes a lot of time. But thankfully, he was very excited for somebody to come and start working on something new in his workshop. And, from there we started developing this collection.
So, how old is this print form?
So, as Mahesh was telling us upstairs, he was saying it is around more than 500 years old. He himself is the 6th generation, and his daughter is the 7th generation of, from his family, how long they've been working.
And you've been employing so many artisans. How many of them are working for you? In India right now, if you want to say about
So, around 200 weavers in West Bengal, and then like Dabu. So it's not that we've employed those artisans. Maheshji has the workshop, and he has artisans who work with him in his village and all. And work basis, they are like, it's like collaboration. Yeah. So we give our designs, and then he gets it done through his
and how often do you take out
community.
Visit to villages and talk to those artisans and sort of?
So Dabu has been, we've gone there a lot of times. So the first meeting was, as I told you, when we were kind of fine-tuning that whether we'll be able to work with this craft, understanding the craft. So that is the first meeting. And after that, when we made our first designs, so designs were all done here to understand. So when we were ready with our design palette, color palette and design repertoire, we went to him and we asked him whether these can be turned into blocks and what will it take, because he has the skill of understanding. So he asked us to modify a few things, change a few things, keep the blocks in a certain way. And after that meeting, then we, kind of started working on, creating our designs again and making them ready for the blocks for Dabu. And that was the second meeting. Third meeting is when we were, when we sent our fabrics. He had to wash them, process them, and the blocks were ready. So we did our sampling. That took a long time. I think our sampling went on for 15, 20 days.
Oh,
Yeah. So I went in and out. Two people from the design team were. So we went with an idea of 4-5 days we will work, but because it was so new for them to do those engineered placement prints, it took a very long time. So I think we were there for 20 days at a stretch. And then when the sampling was done, then we started sending them, bulk fabrics. Let's do this design once, do this design, like that. And we've been going. So I've already through this process around 8 to 9 times I've gone to the cluster.
Let's talk about your Latin fashion collection. I mean, there's much talk about the Christmas drapes, and it was so surreal. It seems such interesting and intriguing drape techniques used. So, I mean, the styling was flawless. So, tell us about the whole idea of, employing those kind of drapes in your collection and, coming up with such an amazing, showcase.
Thank you. So, when we had the Dabu sarees in front of us, and I was thinking of how to present them, the idea was to, and if you've seen our journey through these last 12 years, whenever we've presented at a fashion week or done a campaign, we are very, mindful about presenting sari in a certain way. And also we want to always include the traditional drapes and heritage, which we stand on. And right now, I say it's easy for us to talk about it because, we are still in fashion and we understand the history of drapes and how sari was draped in a certain way. But for new generation who's, getting away from saris and not wearing saris so often, they will maybe not even know that, in West Bengal or, south of India, before, colonization, we were actually wearing saris without blouses, petticoats. It was just a fabric which was wrapped around, and it was a way. And I think those women were so fashionable. And when you go through those archives and look at those women, you feel like all of them are they're wearing the same piece of fabric, maybe woven in a different way, but they've draped and give it their own language, their own twist, and it is so beautiful. And I think that's what we wanted to create with with how we wanted to show sarees this time. And because Dabu was so rustic, so beautiful, we wanted to keep it bare, very, very minimal, very early. And then my conversation with, Daniel started, who styled the show for us. And he was superly excited, thankfully was on the same wavelength. And then he really worked, I think, hats off to him, he really worked on creating these drapes which were out of the world.
Thank you so much, Anavila. It was a pleasure interacting with you.
Same here.